Welcome to another Straight Up Tuesday Tip. I'm your guest, 𝗲𝗏𝗵𝗁, and today's your guest, Tom Shallcross.
That was good. Put me to shame there. Came in hot. Little stutter, but
We do that Tuesday Tip thing just a little different, and I got thrown off. So,
all right, we're good to go though. I guess I'll shut up. I'm the guest.
well, yeah, you're the guest, but man, what do we got to tell our listeners right now? Before we get-
Are we going back to smash the subscribe button and give us a review?
Yeah, give us a review.
Yeah, we need it. Come on, guys.
Come on. The first person that leaves a review here after you listen to this today, I'll watch iTunes and I'll send you a t-shirt. So leave a review, send it to me, and I'll send you a t-shirt.
It's not a straight up Chicago t-shirt. It's just a random t-shirt from Mark Ainley's drawer.
No, it's just white. This is a white t-shirt.
Slightly used.
Yeah, it's just totally yellow. All right, man. Today, you and me are doing this one-on-one here because we're talking about something that you know a lot about, and I don't even know a lot about. So I'm excited to kind of learn a little more from you. But enterprise zones. Talk to me about, first off, what is that?
All right. So when people hear enterprise zone, a lot of them are probably going to think of opportunity zones.
I was thinking rent-a-cars.
Yeah, that too. Side note, did you know I couldn't even get hired by Enterprise Rent-A-Car? That's how unemployable I was out of college. We're not talking about opportunity zones. These are two separate things. So opportunity zones is something where you can defer capital gains and ultimately not pay gains when you sell a building 10 years later. It's a completely separate topic, one we should probably cover. But this is enterprise zone, which is something different. And it's something I've utilized on a lot of these rehabs for being exempt from paying sales tax on it. So I'll dive in. Before talking about the procedure, how I use it, it's also important to note enterprise zones have been around in Illinois since the 80s. They've been around forever. And there's a lot of benefits there that I do not utilize, and nor am I an expert on it. But there's things where certain buildings, like industrial buildings in some of these enterprise zones, in Chicago, you can potentially not have to pay the sales transfer tax, which on these 7-figure buildings, this is, it's tens of thousands of dollars. Like it's a big deal. You can get a 0.5%. There's like a 0.5% deduction on sales tax when you report your sales tax on it. There's a lot of things in enterprise zone not specific to rehab or real estate that if you own a business in one of these, it can be very advantageous for you. So check that out.
Are enterprise zones federal, or is this a specific state, Illinois?
There are enterprise zones across all different, but there are Illinois enterprise zones. Like there's an article from whatever that was created in the 80s for Illinois. I'm very familiar with the Chicago areas, but it is in all burbs. So like John Warren, if you're listening, there's one in Cicero. Like they're all over the place, and you can check them out on very different sites. Chicago actually has everything in one site, which we can link to, that has it has all the information, it has the process for the application, etc. So where I've used enterprise zone is on rehabs. If you're in an enterprise zone, you can actually be exempt from sales tax. So to give you guys an idea, there's maps out there. There's a digitally interactive map that you can look up. About 30% of Chicago is in an enterprise zone. It's made to stimulate what's called underprivileged and underutilized parts of the city. But it's in North Center, it's in Avondale, it's in Logan, it's up and down Ravenswood going north and south. It's by Horner Park. Like it goes all the way up to the Gold Coast, following from like Avondale, down the expressway. Like it's in A+ neighborhoods. I have no idea, how they came up with these 6 different zones. Majority of the south side is in it, but on the north side, there's some areas where like this is not underutilized. I have no idea why I'm getting this benefit.
But those areas were not thriving like they are today. If this was back in the 80s, so that's definitely a different ballgame back then.
Yep. So there's 6 different areas, right? And there's an interactive map. You can go look and be like, all right, am I in the enterprise zone? And then if you are, it's a very simple process. It's a 2-page application, which we can link to, but you fill it out. You fill out, what your expected rehab costs, your expected material costs on it. You do have to put a permit number in there, right? So you got to pull permits on this. You can't do anything under the table. And usually within 2 to 3 days, they get back to you and say, here's your certificate. And then what you do with that certificate, you take it, or you get another one made for your contractor. And when you go to your Home Depot or to all these different suppliers, you show that and you're exempt from paying sales tax. And they enter it into their system. So you go make that $20,000 purchase of materials. That's $2,000 in sales tax that you are no longer paying. So it adds up. You do a $500K rehab, and it's tens of thousands of dollars of savings. And then especially if you're doing it over and over again, it's a big deal.
Is the form that you're filling out, is it who governs this? Is it the county? Is it the city? Is it the state?
It goes to a city email address. So it used to be, this lady's name was Joanne 𝗬𝗓𝗏, who ran it for years, at least when we started using it. She retired, and now there's like an admin, blah, blah, blah. We'll link to it in the show notes, but there's like an admin at City of Chicago email that you send this to now. And again, it's a very simple form. It's 2 pages, and you fill out which zone you're in, your permit number, what you're doing, the address, and basically that's to check you, right? Because they don't want to say like, oh, the rehab's 100K. It's like 2 years later, you're still using this form, right? Or your GC, that's the other thing too. You give it to your contractor, you got to police that. You got to take that thing back from him because you don't want him using it on other jobs later, right? Like you don't want to be caught up in that. So you do have to be careful with it.
You just find you're making me think of a couple of projects I've done where the contractor's like, let me buy this. Don't worry. I'll save you the sales tax. So I wonder if he was just part of this. Oh man, it's all coming back to me now. I was like, oh man, maybe he did work for a church or something like that. But this probably was what he was doing.
Yep, probably exactly what he was doing.
Oh man.
So it's something, and I've been banging the drum on this thing. I wrote a blog article on it. It's in neighborhoods that are investors invested, and no one takes advantage of it. And even if you're just doing a small rehab and you save a few grand, like it's paperwork to get a few grand. Like it's crazy that we're all fighting over every nickel, and then like no one does this.
New construction works for that too.
Yep.
Commercial, you said too?
Commercial too. And there's also within the enterprise zone, there's a lot more that I don't know about, but besides being exempt from sales tax, if you have an actual business in there and commercial industrial, there's a lot more incentives and rebates in there. And there's a lot, if you hire people within an enterprise zone, like there's a lot of benefits if you actually run a business in one of these. I only know it from the aspect of being exempt from the sales tax on my rehab material.
Love it, man. That's awesome. We'll have to check out all those links. So anything else you want to, before we wrap?
No, I just say I'd be careful with it. If your contractor buys materials, you need to be careful with this because you do have to then report on your taxes. Like, hey, this was what I used this for, and this is what my savings were. So, like, I don't know how they would ever audit you, but you cannot, bully the system or how that guy was doing to you. When you're reading the map, one thing that we've gotten caught on a couple times, the zoning, it goes right down the middle of the street. So 3 different times we've had one on the other side of the block. Where for whatever reason that's not in the enterprise zone or that is whatever. But like, so when you're actually looking at the map, like zoom in and see like the cutoff is always the middle of the street. So understand like what side you're on because we've fallen for that and thought like, oh yeah, we're going to save 12 grand on this. And no, we're wrong. So,
yeah, that's a big swing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about Chicago Fact.
Oh man, so I got to turn around and do Chicago Fact now?
Yep,
a lot of talking. All right.
I can't ask myself the question.
You know what, though? We're going to do one for you, though. All right, so who are we playing for? Who's sponsoring?
All right, we're playing for 𝗖𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗁, and today's sponsor is 𝗏𝘃𝗃 Group. So I don't have a guest to help me today, but Sophie, if I get this question right, you get a $50 gift card brought to you by 𝗏𝗃𝗃 Group.
All right, so the Arcata Theater on Main Street in St. Charles. We need a St. Charles question for you, since it's just you. What year was the Arcata Theater built? And your options are 1906, 1926, 1946, 1966.
1906.
1926.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a lot of links to that theater to Capone, so I thought that would have been earlier built because I think he went away to jail, I think in 31 or something like that.
Yeah, no, 1926 according to Google.
Oh man, I've never been there.
So side note, I have it pulled up right now because I put my answers and I forgot which one it was. So as I was asking the question, I was Googling the answer.
Yeah, no, there's a rumor. There's a Hotel Baker that's across the street on the other side of the river. There's like a tunnel that connects that, and it was all from the pre-Prohibition era. There's a lot of history. I mean, there's literally a Civil War camp right around the corner there from whatever, 1859, 1862, whatever that was. So lots of history. That's why I do love St. Charles. All right. Well, Tom, thanks for coming on. Oh, man. Sophie, I'm sorry. We're going to put your name back in the hat. I'm sorry I messed up on my hometown trivia there. But
confidently messed up.
Yeah,
though.
confident. I thought for sure. But Sophie, we'll put your name back in. We do appreciate you bought a shirt on the Straight Up Chicago merch store, straightupchicagoinvestor.com. But you get a chance to be in there again. Tom, thanks for being the guest today. Listeners, share this episode with a friend and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. It really helps us expand our reach to other Chicago investors like you. Tom, thank you. Listeners, we'll see you Thursday.
Thanks all.